Okay, great. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We're hearing from several Stanford researchers recruiting for various research projects. And our next researcher coordinator is Daria, and she's going to be talking about a very interesting study. Well, they're all very interesting, but interesting study on sleep and cognition. That's a joint Stanford and SRI International study. So take it away, Daria.
Thank you so much, Robin. I really appreciate it. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Daria Sharief, and I'm a clinical research coordinator at Stanford University. Today, I'm presenting a research study that's looking at brain, sleep, and cognition. So this is a collaborative study between Stanford University and SRI International. I'm currently coordinating the study with Dr. Eva Mueller-Oura Ring. And then down towards the bottom of the slide, you'll see the principal investigators for this study are Dr. Tillman Schultz and Dr. Kathleen Poston. Dr. Tillman Schultz is our principal investigator from SRI side of things, and then Dr. Kathleen Poston is our principal investigator from Stanford University side. So yeah, and then before we get into it too much, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. I'm really grateful for the chance to connect with you all, and I'm excited to share our research with you. All right. Okay, so where does this study take place? So our study is located at SRI International in Menlo Park, California. So while this is a collaborative study between Stanford University and SRI International, all research participation visits would be in person at SRI International in Menlo Park, California. So here you have our address, and then this is also a picture of the main visitors entrance at SRI International. So if you decide to take part in this study, we'd have you arrive at this lobby where we would meet you and then take you over to our lab space. Okay, so about our research. So we are researching the effects of aging with Parkinson's disease on brain structure and function. So this is a sleep, cognition, and imaging study of the brain. So we're trying to better understand how aging with Parkinson's disease may affect the brain, cognition, motor functioning, and sleep. So a lot of different cool things here. And our goal is to learn more about changes in the brain with aging. And we hope to contribute to our understanding of aging and brain changes in Parkinson's disease with this study. Yeah. So we're currently looking for volunteers to take part in our study. We're looking for people who are over 50 years old, who have Parkinson's disease, who are on dopaminergic medication, and who can do an MRI scan. And participants will also be compensated for their time. Okay, so what does participation in the study actually involve? So participation involves 2 in-person visits at SRI International. So it would be a baseline visit at SRI and then a follow-up second visit 2 years later at SRI. And then for each visit, we usually do about 2 days of testing. So here you'll see that testing is spread over 2 days for the baseline visit, and then the same thing for the follow-up visit. And then we'd also do a brief phone check-in at about 1 year. Okay, so what does participating actually look like for the study? So if you decide to take part in this study, we'll ask you to do some cognitive testing with us. We'll ask you to do an MRI brain scan. The brain scan itself is about an hour long that you're actually in the scanner. And then we'll ask you to do a motor exam. You would most likely do the motor exam with me. So the motor exam usually lasts about 15 minutes, where I'll ask you to do some movements with me, and then we'll assess your posture, tremor, and then balance with a few different movements. And then we would also do a sleep assessment. So for the sleep assessment, it's completely at home. So we would set you up with 2 devices. So it would be a smart ring called an Oura Ring, and then a wrist device. And those 2 would measure your activity and your sleep at home for 2 weeks. So we typically schedule 2 days for the first baseline visit. And so on the first day, you would come in, learn more about the study, And then if you agree to participate, we'll have you sign some consent forms, and then we'll get into some cognitive testing. We'll do the motor exam, and then we'll set you up with the 2 sleep devices. And then we'll ask that you wear those at home for 2 weeks while they record your physical activity and sleep. And then 2 weeks later, when you would come in on your day 2, we would have you return those devices, do your MRI brain scan, and then some more cognitive testing. All right, so for the MRI brain scan, I have this machine on the slide right about here in the middle. So this machine is pretty similar to what our machine looks like at SRI International. So you would be lying on this table for about an hour, and then we would give you blankets and padding to make sure that you're comfortable. And we'd also give you some earplugs to reduce the noise because MRI scans can get loud. And then we'll check in on you multiple times throughout the scan to make sure everything's okay. Right. Okay, and then
And just to confirm, Daria, the MRI scan is also at SRI in
yes,
Menlo
that's
Park.
correct.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
I didn't know they had SRIs there.
Oh, yeah. I believe we used to scan for a previous edition of this study at Stanford University, but now we scan at SRI.
Okay, that's what I was remembering. Okay, great.
Thank you. All right. And then for the sleep recording portion of the study, we do that via the smart ring called an Oura Ring. I actually am wearing one right now. This is kind of what it looks like. And then we'll ask you to wear this smart ring and a wrist device at home for 2 weeks. And so we'll actually install an app on your phone or mobile device called the Oura app, which will connect to the Oura ring that you'll be wearing for 2 weeks if you decide to take part in our study. So this is what the Oura app looks like. And then here, because I've been wearing the ring, I thought it would be fun to share some of my data. It's not necessary to view your data, but because you'll have the app on your phone, if you're curious and would like to, it's there. So last night I slept for 6 hours and 41 minutes, and this is the time I was in bed. So Aura has an algorithm that calculates a lot of different measurements, calculates sleep, heart rate, skin temperature, activity, a lot of different interesting things. And so here was my graph for my sleep stages last night. Just wanted to show you a few different things from the app if you're curious. And then my resting heart rate. So here it shows that my heart rate average of 76 beats per minute. And then my daily movement today. I haven't been moving much, but the day is still young, so maybe I'll get into that later. Yeah, and so that's about the sleep portion of the study. And then that's mostly if you're interested, if you're curious and you'd like to look into your sleep data. It's not necessary or mandatory at all. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'd love to answer them. And then we have our contact information over here. So if you're interested in participating, you can call us, text us, send us an email. And if you have any questions about anything at all, let us know. If there's anything that we can do to make participating more easy or more convenient, also please let us know and don't hesitate to reach out. Okay.
It sounds like a pretty easy study to participate in, Daria. So, the it's not like having to have a DBS surgery or something like that. It's non-invasive, except for, wearing the ring and the wrist device. Seems pretty minimal. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we realize it is a bit of a time commitment as well.
Yeah.
We'll compensate our participants for their time and effort while in the study. And then I'd also like to say that if someone lives more than 20 miles about from the SRI campus, we'll compensate for travel as well.
Okay. And let's see. So just again to summarize is usually you set it up one day for baseline testing, which is the MRI, the motor test, and the cognitive test. at that meeting, at the day one appointment, you give people the Oura Ring and the wrist device, and I guess install the app on their phone.
Right.
Okay, and then after 2 weeks of sleeping at home with the Aura Ring and the wrist device on, then on day two they come back and do they do all the testing again, or just meet up and hand over the equipment?
So for the second day, we usually do the MRI scan on that day when they come back to return the devices. So
Okay,
for our testing, we try to split it up between the 2 days that they come.
okay,
All of our
great.
cognitive testing, all of our questionnaires. We also do a little bit of a clinical interview where we ask participants about their medical history, their physical health. So we split all of that up between the 2 days that they're in the study for their first visit.
Okay, and as I recall, you're looking for healthy controls as
Right.
well as people with Parkinson's.
Yes, yes. So we're looking for both people with Parkinson's as well as people without.
Okay, all right. And and are there any requirements for the healthy controls? Like can they not have certain things?
Right. Yeah, so here, maybe I'll go back. So one important thing, I guess for all of our participants is that before we have them do an MRI scan, we want to make sure that they don't have any metal in their body or metal on their person that may not be compatible with an MRI scanner.
Okay,
So part of why we look into medical history is to make sure that our healthy controls, for example, don't have any cardiac pacemakers because they wouldn't be able to do the MRI scan. And then for our Parkinson's participants, we make sure that they haven't had DBS surgery.
okay. And could you say, I don't know if anybody noticed, but on your last slide about the contact information, the web or the email address says HIVPD 23 study. Could you say what why HIV is in there? I know that's a relic from the past, but maybe you could explain that just for a second.
No, yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. I'd love to clarify. So for part of our study, we're also looking at how aging with HIV infection affects the brain, motor functioning, and cognition. So we're looking at both HIV and Parkinson's disease. While we've been more actively recruiting for people with Parkinson's disease, I'd like to say, well, we're also looking at people that are aging with HIV because research has shown and also real life people have exhibited Parkinsonian symptoms that are living with HIV infection. So there's a connection there. There's something there. We'd love to understand more about it. And we're hoping that what we learned with this study will lead to better treatment for HIV and Parkinson's disease in the future.
Okay, great. And so it's HIV PD 23 study at stanford.edu or phone 650-492-8837. And does that ring to you, Daria, or to somebody else?
Yeah, so it's our study phone, but it rings right to my phone number as well.
Okay, perfect. All right. If there are any more questions, I don't see any questions in the chat or Q&A. Thank you so much, Daria. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.